Welcome. I invite you to listen to music.
Come, come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin. You are welcome here. No matter whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your hearts or tears. You are welcome here. Not just your willing hands, your loving heart, or your open mind, but you, the complete you, exactly as you are. You are welcome here. Good afternoon. My name is Jan Vanderhooft, and I am co-president with Mac Lund of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. We are a covenantal rather than a creedal church. We have no required beliefs or creeds as indicated by my welcoming words. I use these words for every service. Today, we will make a special covenant of mutual support by ordaining John Cooper. Unitarian and Universalist start with the same uni prefix as exists in the middle of the word community. We use this uni to indicate our covenant unifies us. Ever since John Cooper started attending here 15 years ago, he has been grounded and committed to South Valley as his beloved community. We, as his community, are now honored and proud to covenant with John by ordaining him. Furthermore, in the same spirit of our covenantal community church, only the congregational community has the power and authority to ordain a minister. We gather here today to exercise this authority and invite you all into this celebration service.
In the tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we will light the chalice. This time we light the chalice with the words of Albert Schweitzer, a great healer and also a theologian and musician. So I thought this very apt for John's ordination. I invite Sutton to come up and light the chalice with these words. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Piggott, and I am an ordained pastor with the United Church of Christ, and so I bring you greetings from your sisters and brothers at Holiday United Church of Christ. It is such a joy to be here tonight, and thank you, John, for the privilege of speaking on the occasion of your ordination. I was blessed a few years ago to walk a portion of that long journey with you. And in so doing, I have some sense of the challenges you met along the way, the obstacles you overcame, and the man you have become in the process. So what I want to focus on today is the braiding together of three strands: the soul of the man, the power of transcendent love, and the necessity of hopeful imagination. How the strength of that braid can bear the weight of what it needs to bear in the ministry to which John is called. And when I say call, I'm thinking of my favorite theologian, Walter Brueggemann. His definition of call, he says, call is not in the sense of a datable experience, something that happened on one day, but more a sense that one's life is deeply referred to the purposes of the holy, which gives freedom and distance and perspective in relation to all other concerns. So let's look at that first strand, the soul of the man we call John. John is a big guy. And I mean that in so many more ways than just physical. His intellect is astounding. His emotional range is stunning, and he has capacities of intellect and drive and will and vision and purpose to succeed at just about anything he chooses. How he came to this day of ordination tells you a lot about who John is and how he carries those qualities, those gifts, into a broken world. John's journey into ministry began in the most humbling of circumstances. A random fall that injured his spinal column and nearly paralyzed him for life. Pretty brutal wake-up call about what really matters. John. He was, in those moments and the months and years that followed, shown the fragility of life, the circumference of his soul, juxtaposed against the power of love and the necessity for hope. I imagine that John would share these observations, which come from Parker Palmer, who wrote, "In that deadly darkness, the faculties I had always depended upon collapsed. My intellect was useless. My emotions were dead. My will was impotent. My ego was shattered. But from time to time, deep in the thickets of my inner wilderness, I could sense the presence of something that knew how to stay alive even when the rest of me wanted to die. And that something was my tough and tenacious soul." Unquote. John's soul has borne the test of physical and mental and emotional and spiritual trauma. A refiner's fire that burned away the unnecessary and brought out the beauty. Thus, his surviving and indeed thriving soul became generative, fostering connections that deeply affect each life it touches. So his soul is the first strand. And the second strand is the power of transcendent love. No one, no matter how smart, or capable or caring has enough of any of those qualities to shoulder the immensity of suffering that pervades our world. Pamela McCarroll says, quote, "Love's source is transcendent, while its presence is experienced in the real world of relationships as a movement of energy among and between humans and in creation." John lives and moves and has his being in what McCarroll calls the real world of relationships. Entwined in those relationships, he receives and pours out that vibrant energy of love. In the alchemy of love, John's vitality mingles with the extravagant abundance of transcendent love. And the power of that transcendent love showed up for John in the real world of his relationships, in the unwavering love of his beautiful spouse, Sutton, in the tender concern of his family and friends, in the commitment to excellence of his therapists and caregivers. And John surrenders to the power of transcendent love each day as he walks the halls of the Huntsman Cancer Center. While he could, easily expound to his patients about many things, because he knows a lot, it's the outpouring of love that creates a sacred space where they feel heard and companioned as they face their worst fears, as they rage against the injustice of illness, and as they search for elusive and ephemeral hope. His soul becomes a vessel where the Holy One's creativity can be unleashed in the depths of suffering and the grief of loss. And it's that transcendent love that is the second strand. Hopeful imagination is the third strand of that braid, and it is a necessity. And to this necessity, John brings the gifts of an artist, a poet to be exact. Poets, says Brueggemann, have no advice to give people. They only want people to see differently, to revision life. Poets trust others to continue the image, to finish the thought out of their own experience. Through the invitation to hopeful imagination, people are changed. Not by changing their physical circumstances, but through transformed consciousness. Possibilities and potentialities of newness beyond the physical limitations of this present reality. To engender hope, one needs to imagine that things could be otherwise. John's way of being just overflows with that imaginative freedom. Again, Pam McCarroll speaks to this, saying, "The central practice for caregivers and those called to bear witness to hope is to discern, embody, and trust hope's possibility in any given situation. Over against isolation, disconnection, and loneliness, hope is fed when horizons are opened up, when one discovers oneself to be connected, embedded, participating in something bigger than one's own little world, so to speak." Unquote. So I see hopeful imagination as the third strand of that braid. Well, one thing I've learned on this journey is that our raw sensations of pain and desire and pleasure and fear require a story in order for us to make sense of them. So So when that story leads somewhere and helps to navigate through life and beyond death, it gives us hope. So here's a story about John's work. Recently, one of my friends shared that he was to have cancer surgery at Huntsman that week. Knowing John, I asked my friend if he would like to have a chaplain visit. He was a bit squeamish, a little bit skeptical, but he, not wanting to embarrass me, he said, well, sure, that would be nice. So I asked John to go. And he went to work early that day because I asked him to. And he saw my friend and my friend's spouse. And he shared with them his tough and tenacious soul in ways they could receive it. And he poured out that magic potion of love and concern. And he met them where they were. And then he skillfully created a sacred space, which was a container for their fears and their anger and their need for hope. And they were blown away, taken by surprise at the grace and courage and honesty that John brought to the bedside. Their experience of surgery was entirely altered by John's generosity of soul, love, and hope. Yes, that braid can bear the weight of what it needs to bear in the ministry to which John is called. So, which ideology wins an election, we're not going to talk about. What will influence our lives, granted, but the work of the faithful remains the same, regardless. To answer meaninglessness with purposeful compassion. To respond to antagonism with universal forgiveness. To reply to fearful bigotry by taking on the perspective of those who have suffered persistent indignities. To mend the world. So may we each choose to use our gifts as John has done, to mend the world. Thank you.
I invite you now to stand in body or spirit, and we will sing together hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call.
I am honored to speak on this day with so much history and tradition around us. This is where John Cooper continued to return to sing and to serve in many capacities through the years before and during his studies to become a minister. And I am sure that his interactions with you contain clues and urgings for him that became part of his discernment to continue. You and the workings of this church affirmed his call. Today, we have come to this ritual that formally marks that he has reached the place of his heart's longing. He walked up the holy mountain, not sure of how his life would change, knowing it would change. And Sutton stayed by his side, faithfully accompanying him, and I have watched this beautiful accompaniment the past 4 years, accompanying him through changes that I'm sure were not always easy. As he drove, we could say we're difficult. No need for euphemisms. As he drove countless times back and forth to Denver and Isla's School of Theology on snowy roads that threatened to keep him away and through the beauty of spring and autumn, I'm sure that there were times when he wondered why he was leaving the comfortable life they had planned for themselves and moving into the unknown. He traveled many miles, as pilgrims travel, knowing that the way itself is as important to the pilgrimage as the destination, to arrive now at the place of the beginnings of his call. May his arrival here at this moment to this familiar place be for John a new beginning, and may his presence here and the celebration of ordination be an affirmation to all of you of the worth of listening to that inner voice that may be calling you to a new life. May your participation in this service cause you to tune your ears to your inner voice. For when we listen to that voice within, we act boldly. And although at first those actions may seem to separate us from others, that inner voice is connecting us to others in a new way. As John followed his inner voice, he came to this place where he will be connected with this community in a new way. You will still laugh together and cry together, and I very much hope sing together. He will also be with us in a new way that has been forming through the past years, through good times and hard times, when the way was difficult, and when he may have wondered if angels' hands would bear him up, when he took the step into the darkness. I have seen this happen less formally in many of you since I arrived here now more than 4 years ago. I have seen you come to this sanctuary unsure of your place in this community, and now you may be on the board or singing in the choir, or you are reaching out to the greater community through feeding homeless youth. At the end of each service, we extinguish the chalice. And at that time, I bid you take that light with you out into the world, into your families. In that way, you are spreading not only your personal light, but the light of our community. John has a special place in this, for with his affiliation as a minister, voted on by the board and by a heartfelt consensus of this community, he has our charge to formally represent us in the work he is doing. When he walks the halls of the Huntsman Cancer Institute and listens to patients and offers them a space for healing, he is taking the light of this community with him and strengthening and extending our part of the web of life. And I believe that that will be transformative through the years. You have heard from Reverend Nancy Piggott about the abundant gifts that he brings to chaplaincy. These gifts will grow and change as he blesses the people within the reach of his arms as a chaplain. As that happens, our community, in ways that will be difficult to describe, will be lifted as well. For this sanctuary and our community are transformed by the kindness and faith and hope that we enact here and beyond these walls. To accompany people as they face the certainty of their mortality is holy work that calls to John. Our chalice lighting words written by Albert Schweitzer, a man who accompanied others during the most difficult times of illness and death, and sometimes to healing, remind us of a part of our responsibility towards John. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Let his presence among us as an affiliated minister who goes out into the world remind us to create in this place a house of prayer and healing where he can come to find sustenance. May this be a place where he can come and feel the light of others and be able to rest in the arms of singing and laughter and be inspired by our vision. May this be a place of refuge and healing for him as his ministry blesses us. May it be so. Amen. In John's ministry as a chaplain, encountering suffering that has no easy solution, his voice often lifts in prayer, answering that human need to externalize our conversations with life and God and mystery. We find these prayers throughout the Psalms. They were sung by mourners at funerals in ancient times. I have read accounts of singing interspersed with weeping. John wanted the choir to sing this song because it often goes through his head when he leaves a difficult situation and walks the halls of Huntsman. His inner voice calls upward and outward, listen to the voice of my cry.
I hope you didn't think a chaplain's ordination service would all be complete joy. I asked for this part of the service because I wanted to say a few words about the offertory and the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association Living Tradition Fund. The Living Tradition Fund is a fund that is used to seed ministry and to support ministry. It is a fund that provides scholarships for new ministers. It is a fund that provides resources for starting ministries, and it is a fund that provides support for ministers who have come upon crisis. So many times, those of us who practice ministry are so focused on caring for others, there are times when our lives don't go as we hoped or as we planned. And this fund is there to provide support during those times. I think it was in 1982, you'll have to forgive me, I completely forgot my notes on this part. So, I think it was in 1982 that the General Assembly of Unitarian Universalists and the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association asked that during ordination services, the offertory be contributed to the Living Tradition Fund. And it has become our tradition. So I ask that you please, while you enjoy the offertory music, please dig deep. You're already perhaps feeling a little emotional this evening, perhaps a little more. And please give generously to support developing ministries, developing ministers, and those ministers who come upon crisis. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this wonderful occasion. I now invite the members of South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society to rise in body or spirit and join me in proclaiming the words of ordination. We, the members of South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, hereby ordain you, John D. Cooper, to the Unitarian Universalist Ministry. We give you our blessing and our love, wherever you minister, insofar as you are able. We ask you to speak the truth as you find it, in love and freedom, to minister with compassion to persons in their joys and in their sorrows, to help people deepen their liberating connections with that which is greater than ourselves, to commit yourself to the building of a world with greater compassion, community, and integrity, and to model by your example the principles of our free faith. Please be seated. I now invite the family and friends to rise in body and spirit and join in affirming the ordination of John Cooper. John, you have opened yourself into our lives in so many ways. You have celebrated our joys and commanded us in our struggles and sorrows. We too celebrate with you on this occasion and enter into the joyous spirit of your ordination. I now invite everybody to stand in body and spirit. It is with joy and delight that we witness and affirm your ordination. We will continue to walk with you in the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace and love. In this world of struggle and transformation, may you carry with you the blessings of all of us wherever you minister. And may you serve others with a heart broken open by compassion, truth, and holy boldness. Please be seated.
John, congratulations. I had a feeling everyone wanted that chance. John, we are grateful that you have chosen to be affiliated with our congregation. And I'm going to face you because this is not an Omni microphone. But I'm speaking to John, and I guess to all of you as well. I am certain that with all ministries, as with all ministries, your challenges will grow as your ministry lengthens at Huntsman Cancer Institute. There will be times when sharing the burdens of so many will suddenly feel too heavy. At such times, I charge you to remember the source of your call and to continue to listen and rely on that source of all being that can bear the unbearable. You have great gifts. You are enough for this challenge, and you are not enough without that source of life and love. You have been called to this ministry, and you will need to continue to develop a practice of self-care that will support your ministry. I charge you also to continue to listen to your wise companion, Sutton. for she will have wisdom at surprising and not surprising times. Nourish yourself with song and all those things that bring you joy. There will be times when you feel alone, and that is also part of ministry, a surprising part, but a part of ministry. Carry with you touchstones that will remind you that even when gratitude is unspoken, that your work is lifting the burdens of this world. Find for yourself a practice of gratitude for the everyday, the feel of wind on your face and the sound of leaves underfoot will support you. Take time to lift your voice often to the holy and send the sorrows of others and your own upwards. Listen for the wisdom that will well up inside you and follow that wisdom as you did a few years ago, that wisdom that brought you to this place. John, may your pilgrimage continue in joy, in great joy. Amen. And now for the stoles.
We often wonder in the mysterious way that Source, the universe, the all, the divine, whatever anyone calls it, works in our lives.
This stole was made for John in Scotland. We brought this woolen fabric, a Cooper tartan, home for Scotland, in anticipation of John's successfully leaping through burning hoops presented to him. And when he finally was successful, then we sent it back to Scotland to be made into this store, with designs from John and Sutton. And then we sent it then to this wonderful ecclesiastical embroiderer in the Highlands, who added her own symbolism to it after hearing John's story.
And what's funny is that in looking up the story behind the Cooper tartan, we came upon a poem written in the 1700s by a Scots poet named William Cooper. And who knows, he might even be born. The poem speaks to the mysterious ways our lives unfold, and we saw parallels in it to John's journey. It's called Light Shining Out of Darkness, and we thought we'd share it with you this afternoon. Some of you may even recognize the first couple of lines as it's been made into a hymn and is still sung.
God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-filled skill, his treasures up, he treasures up his bright designs and works his sovereign will.
Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take, the clouds ye so much dread, and big with mercy, and shall break in blessings on you. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face.
His purposes will reopen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the fruit.
Blind unbelief is sure to bear and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain.
Well, you're a professional now, and one is never enough. Trustees to you. Congratulations. Yes, please. Keep us beautiful. Always.
I was just going to say, fortunately for all of you, it's packed multiple times. I just want to say thank you. I'm very touched. Thank you to this community and to the Board of Trustees. Is it tacky? All my 30 colleagues who have joined us here today all gave me thumbs up. So.
We will now have the blessing of hands.
John asked Mel and I and Antoinette to guide this part of the service because we were peers together in clinical pastoral education at St. Mark's Hospital. And so he found it appropriate for us to guide the blessing of the hands. It's through the blessing of the hands and the power and presence of our congregation and all of those gathered here tonight that John will become Reverend John Cooper. And so, as we begin, join us in placing of your hands over your heart. Feel its precious beating. Feel, too, the stirring of your spiritual heart, and let its compassion and wisdom radiate into your receiving hands. Hands, when in service to the human spirit, have the power to bless and touch with a touch that heals, touch that comforts. Hands, when pledged in covenant to serve to our neighbor, have power to transform. Through service that strengthens, service that liberates, we, the ministering hands of our religious tradition and the ministering hands of this community, unite in our support of the minister called to lead this, to be part of this congregation, and to minister at Huntsman Cancer Center, the Reverend John Cooper.
We are now going to lay hands on John and ordain him for ministry. We would like to invite John's family, his father David, his mother Susan, his wife Sutton, and his sister Payson in absentia, to come forward and lay hands on John. Larry and Linda, two. We would also like to invite the clergy now to come forward and lay hands on either John or someone who's laying hands on John. And now we'd like to invite the Board of Trustees, South Valley. And the choir and musicians. And if the rest of the congregation, family, friends, could please come forward and lay hands on, probably someone laying hands on John.
There's room around the back here. Spirit of life and love, enter into our hearts and lives, and particularly into the life of John as he accepts the responsibilities of ministry. May he find fulfillment of purpose as he gives of himself and his talents to the task of making this world a better place for all. May he be imbued with the spirit of compassion and of wisdom as he serves those in need. May he be filled with the courageous spirit of humility as he recognizes his limitations, and above all the spirit of love as he administers to all sorts and conditions of people. May this be but the beginning of a fruitful ministry that will bring to John the great and abiding satisfactions that come to those who give generously of themselves in the service of others. Amen.
John, we know your powerful presence, your compassionate authority for those who are misused, your big heart that was and is and always will be open to minister to others, whomever they are and wherever they come from. John, though a formal affirmation through this ordination is a powerful reminder, without it, these qualities within you always are. May you go now with our affirmation of who you are, and may you continue to grow into yourself, knowing we all support your strength, compassion, and dedication to those who have suffered injustice. May you continue to allow peace within you, and may that peace extend to all who experience your presence, your Johns.
And may all of you in this circle remember this kindness that is vibrating through the interconnected web of life, and take this kindness into the world when you see John, bless him again with your kindness. Amen, and may it be so. We can all return to our chairs.
quartet for being willing to sing here this evening. Wow. Just wow. Whew. Thank you all. I realized as this was coming together actually today that I have rarely, if ever, maybe once, shared any of my poetry in this sanctuary with this community, so I thought I would do so this evening. We'll see if I make it through it. Beloved ones, I say in parting, remember, we are meant to cry at beauty. Or did you not know whether she strikes on heart in silence of whispering dawn, wave spreads forth amidst crash of wheels upon ground, in crowd of seat of airborne groan. We are meant to cry at beauty. This the soul knows and the heart whispers, yet mind calls out to fit into false prophet's way, gone to appropriate wondering. Still, when we gathered, the heart did know, and the soul, it did wait for that gift of tears. The Holy One doth speak into grace, waiting for our answer. We are meant to cry at beauty. So, dear ones in grace, have we stood together, sharing that place where grace whispers to flame and soul metal burns into shape of one who knows the truth of parting. Woven strands of heart place fame, ever pull at memory in whisper of time. Spent together when beauty was one and still quiet voices wept for the wonder of it all. We are meant to cry at beauty. And having stood on those shores together, deep watery flame born in crucible fire, where even Leviathan feared to dive deep, know that those paths walked together in time shall only sing blessings until ways walked apart. To those companions wandering on grace, I say once more, remember time shared and know the truth of it. We are meant to cry at beauty. I offer this at the close of this, and I'm going to extinguish the chalice and then we can enjoy our postlude, which again I requested and Mary Lou has been so kind to provide, and thank you, Kevin, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much. But I offer you these words which are adapted from a beloved, among my many mentors, a beloved mentor who did not survive to join us this evening. So, allow me to say, may you live without fear, live without shame. Know that creation has made you holy and looks after you and loves you as only a mother can love. As you go in peace, may you be broken for love's sake, for it is the cracks in things through which the light shines through. Amen. Gentle people, go in peace. May it be so. invite all of you downstairs for a reception, I guess in my honor. Please